All right, guys, Sam back with you here. It's Wednesday, December 19th. We're going to finish up. This is by request amongst the members for Ethereum to the dollar. I've got a 4-hour up here. Now, working here's our January high, 14. Taking the simpler is better approach here. So with the simplest thing I can come up with is that we've got just a big ABC. So A, B, looking for the C. So here, and this is much, I've shown this before, much like Bitcoin here, our second pivot here. I've shown this many times here. So here's our 50. Here's likely the front run here. Now it's had legs to get through it. So you look, all right, okay, where are we in the count? Well, so if this is correctly identified here, we know it's corrective of some sort before we start the long move down. Well, just basic ops. Now, there's a little bit of a conundrum here. So if that's correctly identified as the 1, and there's a pretty strong case that that's a good solid 1, there's the 2. Well, as I'm counting it now, so here's the conundrum. Here's the high probability zone right here for our third. But note here, we don't quite get there on the proposed third that I have. Where are we getting there? Right now. We've just arrived, right? So you kind of look at that and you think, well, could I have this wrong? Could this be 1, 2, 3? Well, then you got to kind of put it in context of where we could be going. If that were the case, we'd be looking for something like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? You got to pay attention to where 0 is, right? That actually not terrible symmetry, but one hell of a third. So we run into some similar problems down here, which we'll get to in a minute. That's worth noting here is that this. Now, do I think that's what's happening? No, actually, I don't. I can't eliminate that possibility here because of the symmetry here. And there is certainly a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we're gonna look at this in a minute here. So we have similar issues in terms of resolving as to whether or not we have a significant low in, or whether it's the low of a third, or potentially a trend change low. Can't eliminate this possibility just yet. So let's dig into it here. See, as I think what we have here is 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That gives us our impulsive third. Now we go into what I propose here. I think we've got a triangle. So we go A, B, C. Here's my 4 over here before we head down. Now, just like Bitcoin and EOS and all the major cryptocurrencies here, there's a little bit of a conundrum down here at the low because of the way it's unfolded. So if we look here, so here's the triangle. So as I'm counting it, 1, 2, 3 is in. Here's a lovely little ABC. And then now, so here, let me blow it up here so I can show you this. So this just as with Bitcoin. Okay, if we're trying to finish down here, well, this is a zigzag, right? A, B, C. So it's even more problematic here. So if this is, so we can get 5, 3, 5. Okay, if that's a significant low, and even so, we still have to allow for a little truncation here in the 5th. So it's a little, wouldn't be the count you'd tee up as a great example. But what we can see is, regardless of the low is here, or if it ultimately ends up being here, this is 3, not 5. So then you got to work backwards and go, okay, well, if that's the low, whether it's here or here, if that's the low, because following that, I've got this lovely impulse, just as I do with Bitcoin and all the majors, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, look at the subdivision in the 5. Perfect, textbook, boom, off we go. Well, right, much like the other coins, you have to look at it and you say, well, wait a minute, if this is going to finish down here, if I've got an ABC to finish, and indeed, so what, as I noted with Bitcoin, you got a couple of options here. There could be a 1 wave, right? Potential trend change, 1, 1 going in. Could be an A wave, right? With nice clean impulse. Could be an A of a larger ABC. Could be finishing. So if we, as I showed here, could be maybe we've got an expanded flat, right? That not out of the question here, and we're just putting in, this would be a larger 4 before we head down. Can't rule that out. As a matter of fact, I want to just out of curiosity here, I didn't check this. Do we get the upper edge there? If it's that or that, containing it, but not ideal. So pulling that off here as a possible flat correction here, right? So we're either starting something or finishing something with that impulse. So let's explore the idea. Is it possible that we're starting something? All right. So if that's the case, we have to work backwards. So if this is ABC, then this, so the assumption is that's the 4 ABC, if that's going to finish, so we got to work backward. If we're going to finish, so this would have to be a diagonal. If that's the diagonal, I've got to overlap something for my one wave. Well, I got only one choice. All right, nothing. Well, no, nothing. Couldn't. You wouldn't be able to explain this. So if this low here has to be the 3 before we go into 4 ABC, ABC, ABC. Well, that creates a bit of a problem, as you'll note here. So if this is correctly identified as our 4, then we've got a pretty good looking AB. This has to be the 1. So let's lower that degree here real quick. Let's go submicro. Okay, so if that's going to be the 1, so if we've got an ABC in the 1, because I have to have the overlap. It's not optional. Then I've got to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's get that. Oh, we'll go blue here. Let's go. Bear with me a sec. Okay, right. So is that right? That's even uglier than it was with Bitcoin. 1, 2, 3, 4. I guess we'll go. Let's put that in green. Okay, so 1. So ABC into a 1. Right? No, I gotta overlap. It's the only choice. Meaning I gotta have that as my 2. Wait, look at this symmetry. So you'd be looking for this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. Now, so are we stretching here? Right, for that? Is that a stretch? Certainly not the symmetry you'd tee up if you were given a choice. So what are the alternates? Right, it's this kind of a conundrum here, right? So it makes me pause and before I say, oh, low's in. Even though I'm astonished, I'm questioning the low in at $80 in Ethereum. Yet, boy, this is an ugly, ugly count. Right? It's just there's no clean way to resolve this. So what are your alternates? Well, if you're limited by the retracements, right? So you've got this one, and you've got this one. So then you kind of come back to this and you say, well, wait a minute, right? Remember we looked here where we started, that this potentially, we'd gone right into the high probability zone for a third. So maybe we've got this all wrong, and that all we're doing here is just this is some sort of an A wave going in, B wave, C wave before we head down, something like that. So then you'd have to think of that this would have to be, so the whole move down here would have to be your third. Now you're going to run into the same problem here, because whether we're finishing a hard low or we're finishing the low of a third, we have this same problem down here. How do we finish that in a zigzag? Right? So then you think, okay, well, what about the expanded flat idea? Boy, could you even get it? So you'd have to do it this way. So you'd have to go 1, 2, 3. Oh, man, there's just no clean way to get it. So you'd have to go A, B, C, B, C before you headed down. Boy, it's no. So here's something to check here. It's possible, I guess we could say, if that's the 3 to the 4. How do we look here? Just shy of the 100. Right, that's a common pivot here. So we look at the prior this prior ABC here relative to what we've just done here. So you think downtrend, corrective move. Interestingly, so here this one went to the 618 exactly. This one we're just shy of the 100. Boy, so same problem here. How do you if so back to where we started? Since we're in the high probability zone, if we're calling this a third, and we're coming down here, and this would have to be finishing the third before we go into the ABC. All right, so let me come here, pull all this off. So if that's the 3 low, you got similar problems. How are you solving that? How are we getting down here? How are we getting the hard 3 low here? You run into the same problem. Right, because if it's a 3 low, we've got, and this is our before we head down. See, the problem is your eye wants to go, oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. right? Right, that's oh, piece of cake, right? So that's what you'd think. Oh, 1, 2. But here's the big 3. A, B, C into my 4. Down for the 5. Yeah, easy peasy. What's the problem? Well, that zigzag is the problem. So when in doubt, you know, I'm not coining the phrase. I'm just reminding you of the phrase. Stay the hell out. I'm not comfortable with a trade in here. I do not see how this resolves down here, either as a 3 or as the finish. Other than that extremely ugly diagonal that allows us to finish down here. I think we don't have enough information yet to work off of this as a hard low. I do not like the way this resolves, so my advice would be stay out. Now, could you trade this? Yeah, sure. Right here, we got a nice big fat impulse. So whether this is a 1, a C, a B, there's a trade here. Certainly, if we come down here in 3 on the assumption, right? And that's an assumption. So hang on, I got a little mouse happy there. Okay, so something along these lines. If we come, yeah, hell yeah, very tradable, right now. Let's be certain that we are, you know, if we're, you got, so 50 is reasonable here. So you've got some, you got some structure here. Let's see. So first target, I would sure as hell be tight on that stop. All right, so if I were a buyer at the 50, so just first algo target, you got almost 5 to 1. Second algo target, 7 to 1. If you're going to get a true third, if this somehow we're going to be able to resolve down here and we're going to end up with that ugly diagonal or account that I haven't been able to figure out yet, well, what do we got there? There's 9.3 to 1. If this is going to go 1, 2, 3, and we're going to be off, all right, we've had a trend change. You know, you got a better count. I'd like to see it. It's very, very hard to resolve this down here because of that 3. So here, this big 3 followed by this 3, right? So you're limited in choices, right? Very limited. So if this is the 4, so what's the alternate? 2? Shit, no, it doesn't work. 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2. No, it can't. There's no way to resolve it. So again, unless there's a count there that I'm just not seeing, and you know, I will go back. I'll go to my partner, right? He's my go-to guy if I'm confused. But Sensei's as well, right? There's likely a count in here that allows this to resolve down here, but I'll be damned if I can find it. And I don't see it. So this, yeah, that's tradable. I wouldn't be swinging for the fence, and I wouldn't be trading this on the assumption that the hard low is in. But there's a trade there. Right, you know, even just the first algo, even if you just say, I don't know where the Elliott count is, I got a swing low, I got an impulse, and I'm coming in for a 50 to a 618. That's that's a tradable event. Doesn't mean it's a guaranteed winner, but it's certainly a valid setup. Right, as to how this count ends up resolving, I think we need more information. Just because you don't, you know, you aren't comfortable with the final count doesn't mean you can't take a trade there. All right, but sure as hell get a stop on it. All right, guys, that's what I see. If you've got an alternate here, I'd love to see it. Members, you know where to post that. All right, if you're watching on YouTube, let me see what you got there. That is the toughest one of the day that I've looked at, and I've looked at Bitcoin, EOS, and Ethereum. This one is the problem child of the 3. Right, okay, guys, that's it for now. As always, right, all of our links are underneath the video. If you're interested in joining us or participating or a trial, we're easy to reach. Okay, guys, talk to you later.